Good evening. I'd like to call the, what is today, the 12th, the November 12th, 2025 Ashland Parks and Recreation regular meeting to order. And the first order of business is roll call, please.
Commissioner Gardner?
Here.
Commissioner Weiner?
Here.
Commissioner Lund?
Here.
Commissioner Adams?
Here.
And Commissioner Bachmann?
Commissioner Bachmann is absent.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is approval of minutes. Any corrections or additions to the minutes? Yes, Commissioner Weiner.
Thank you. I wanted to bring attention to some comments that were made on the special meeting October 1st minutes, section 3, under court reservations procedure, in the question and answer section. Most of the way down, it's the not the last two, but the ones near the end. So the first question that was asked at that time was question about policy of barring vending in the park, and the answer was that it's only a violation if money is exchanged on premises. And I pulled Ashland Municipal Code 10.68.060, which is referencing unpermitted commercial activity. No one shall sell or offer for sale any article or perform or offer to perform any service for hire in any of the parks without a written permit for such a concession properly and regularly granted by the Parks Commission. No one shall hawk, peddle, popcorn, ice cream, et cetera, et cetera. There is no mention anywhere in Ashland Municipal Code of when, where, or how money is exchanged. It is purely related to whether or not there is selling and buying occurring. There is a path around it, which is simply if someone wants to do pickleball or tennis lessons or whatever they want to do in the park, it's fine as long as they request special permit. So that was an inaccurate statement within the minutes that I think needs to be corrected. And there was one other area of inaccuracy in the minutes.
Go ahead.
The next question line item was the enforcement clause question, and it was, does APRD staff have enforcement ability? And we were told that Ashland APRD staff does not, only APD could enforce. That's related to Ashland Municipal Code 10.68.310, interference with park officers. And it's relatively clearly stated, no person shall refuse a request or obey any reasonable direction of law enforcement, park officers, or employees. It does give park employees and officers full authority to request. Doesn't give them the ability or authority to cite, but it does give them the authority to request that they leave. And any violation of that chapter is a class 3 violation. And they can be removed from the park and be banned from the park for a set period of time.
Before going on, I'd like to hear from staff. Do you agree that these are misstatements in the minutes?
Would you mind, Commissioner Weiner, what was that AMC reference again?
Which one? So the first one, or the
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
For both.
First one is 10.68.060, unpermitted commercial activity.
Okay, hold on. Sorry. Would you mind repeating that one? I messed up the.
10.68.060.
What was the second one?
The second one is 10.68.310.
I'm actually thinking, I'm wondering if we should let our legal counsel look at this a little bit and come back to this item on the agenda a little bit later in the meeting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I guess one thing I'm kind of, just to talk out loud a little bit, is if we're approving minutes, and if it was a discussion item, so, like, you know, I can certainly provide feedback for AMC interpretation, and then that's one question. Another kind of thing I'm thinking about is if it's just an approval of minutes, then I would want to go through back to the minutes.
Correct.
see there was
If
an
I may,
Yeah,
if
so
I may comment, I read verbatim from the minutes what the question and answer were as listed within the minutes. But and the question is are the minutes approval of, yes, that is what was said. That is an accurate reflection of what was said. My concern really is that what I interpret as misinformation was stated in public setting and needs to be corrected.
Oh,
So
okay.
how exactly we go about that has been up for debate.
Oh, well, if I may, oh,
I would just say that if we're worried about what's out there for the public, if it stays as written, if we were to approve the minutes as written, and those statements are incorrect, that stays, in the record forever, or as long as the records are kept. And so I think that really, one way or the other, we should either determine that they are correct as they are, or we should change them. And so one of the options is to just pull the minutes and let staff, look at this and come back next month with them. That might be the easiest way. I just don't want to spend a lot of time on this. Yes, Commissioner Gardner.
Well, I would just remind us that the approval of the minutes is only approving what was actually said. It isn't, if something was misstated or that there was someone said something that wasn't true, that's not what's on the table here. It's just, are we approving what was actually said? So if you said that it was 10 and it's really 8, that doesn't matter. But if you said it was 10 and someone said and wrote that it was 8, then you'd say, yeah, I want to correct that. So I think we're talking about two different things here, actually.
And there is some truth to that, but I'd still say that would like to see the records be accurately reflect, be consistent with the Ashland Municipal Code. And the way to do that is you don't change what was said, but you have a little addendum there that says this was double checked and it was found to have been a misstatement. And so we're correcting it for the long-term record. So that's why I think it's worthwhile to do that.
yeah, I think that's a fine solution, and the purpose of the minutes is to document an accurate reflection of what was said. And so that would be a fine solution
Yeah.
So I'd want to clarify if Commissioner Weiner, if you think it was an inaccurate what was said versus the substance you disagreed with, which we can, have like that asterisk.
Correct. What was said was said.
Okay.
But I feel like it's important that we state for the public what the accurate reflection of the Ashland Municipal Code is in relation to those particular things.
So I'm suggesting that we table this item and that staff brings it back to the next meeting with the verbiage changed. And I think since we're tabling it, we could have a roll call vote. Well, actually, if we have a second, I'll make the motion, so we need a second.
I'll second your motion to table this discussion regarding an addendum of the minutes.
Thank you.
Just for my clarification, that would mean that we would add we'd add the correct information, but not change what was actually said. Okay, thank you.
Correct. Okay, roll call vote.
Commissioner Gardner,
No.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Lant,
Yes. Commissioner
Adams.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving along, additions and deletions to the agenda. I'm aware of one change, and that is under business number 3, The indoor facility use policy is going to change from an action item to an information item. The reason for that is what you have in your hand could be arguably substantially changed from what was posted online, and that's part of the process to post it. So we reposted, and we'll look at it tonight, but at our December meeting, we'll take action on it. Okay, public forum. I have no notes that there is anyone here to speak at public forum. So moving on to the consent agenda. So do I have a motion to acknowledge and approve or approve the consent agenda?
So move.
I guess we need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Lund,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams.
Yes.
All yes, motion passes. Minutes acknowledged.
Okay, next on the agenda is the director's report. So Deputy Director Dials, welcome.
Thank you. This is going to be quick, just a couple slides here. I wanted to recognize our North Mountain Park Nature Center. Since this biennium, our staff has really stepped up their game as far as partnerships, and we have a fairly new partnership with Salmon Watch that's happening. And with the loss of our education programs in previous years, we've been able to partner with Salmon Watch to bring students back on site at North Mountain Park. And so over this past month and a half, we have had 217 students from kindergarten through 5th grade that have come through, participated in the Salmon Watch program at North Mountain Park. And our team, is on site during the event. We're kind of a step back from the actual program, but it's really nice to see students back on site at North Mountain Park. So that's been good. We had a couple of community programs that our manager has been coordinating, identifying fall birds. We had 21 people, and then we had a All About Bats program for youth ages 5 to 10 and their parents at North Mountain Park recently. So that we are getting quite a bit more use of North Mountain Park over the last about 6 months or so.
Yes, did staff report seeing any salmon?
The kids did not see any salmon when they were on site that I know of. But we have gotten reports from people actually in the park that have seen salmon, so. At the Oak Knoll Golf Course on November 4th, we had a windstorm, and gusty winds took down 17 poles at the driving range and the netting that goes with it. So the picture that is on your right is all of the poles on one side down, and the picture on the left is our staff safely bringing down. We had 6 or 7 poles on the other side that were damaged, and so we ended up having to take down all of the poles on the other side. Kudos to our staff for safely doing that last week. It was quite a sight to behold and watch. And right now we're still in some evaluations with our insurance company and figuring out how to get all of the poles off-site at this point, and then doing some reevaluation of how we're going to move forward in planning. So. And just a reminder that the Ashland Rotary Centennial Ice Rink, weather permitting, will open on November 21st.
What would be weather that would not allow opening on the 21st?
The weather we have right now. The 65-degree day with wind and lots of leaves falling. But we do look at the longer-term forecast, and it does look like it's supposed to start getting colder. So.
Thank you. And it looks like we're moving on to the first order of business, the Senior Services Division Annual Report. And I think Deputy Director Dials is going to kick that off.
Yep. I will introduce Natalie Metler, our Senior Services Superintendent, to talk about the Senior Services Division Annual Report.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to give an update about the work of the Senior Services Division. Let's see. So just so you all know what our operations are like, we're still pretty much at the same level, open to the public Monday through Thursday, 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Our staff are in the office on Friday, but we're doing other work. And the Food and Friends meal programs operates Monday through Friday, offering a hot lunch and delivered meals to homebound seniors. We have had some slight title changes, so I believe I'm now a division manager. I'm a full-time coordinator who manages our programs and daily operations, and then an administrative assistant who is sort of split between supporting customer service at the Grove and the Senior Center. We estimate about 25 hours a week of her time at the Senior Center. We still have some wonderful office volunteers that help 4 hours a day, 3 days a week. So things are going well there. The usual chart that I have to show with the lines going the right way. So our service continues to expand, which I think is primarily a function of people becoming more aware of the services we offer, but also the fact that the Ashland population is aging. So let me just look at my notes here. So this past fiscal year, 24-25, the total number served, including for all our classes, people who come for information, people who participate in partner services, except the meal program, we don't count them directly. The total was 21,263. A little bit more than half are the ones that participate in our fitness classes, our recreational programs, our educational events, and our special events, at 13,871 and 7,392 for services. So that's people that come for information and referral to our office, what we call resource consults, which is a little bit more in-depth navigation and problem solving, and people that come to see the partners and volunteers that we host that offer things like technology tutoring and assistance navigating Medicare and behavioral health issues. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. I don't have everything on the slides, so some of it I'll just be talking about. One of the other things we did this year, as well as the RDAC and the TAC, is that we made some adjustments to our Ashland Senior Advisory Committee to align with the city guidelines for advisory committees and to have consistency across our Park Commission advisory committees. So that means we adjusted member term dates. We adjusted the meeting calendar to meet quarterly. We're still working on our bylaws, so hopefully that'll be on your next consent agenda, on updating them. We are currently recruiting for new members. We have 2 vacant seats. We have received applications, and we hope to onboard those in time for our January meeting, so hopefully you'll see something on your December agenda. And we gave the advisory committee a new charge. So ASAC, the Ashland Senior Advisory Committee, is now charged with working with staff to interpret and implement PROS plan senior services related items and to advise staff on policies related to senior services. So let's see. Again, not quite here yet, sorry. Just want to remind everyone about the demographics of our community. This is still the 2020 community survey data, but just reminding everyone that almost a quarter of Ashland's population is age 65 and above, and almost half are age 50 and above, and our programs serve age 50 and above. Let's see. And so this is to highlight our partnerships. So I apologize for the lack of readability. I think mostly I was trying to have an impact of a long list. But the ones that are in red are new partnerships that we have developed this year. So these are people that may be fiscal sponsors or in-kind sponsors for some of our events, but they're primarily people that offer services for older adults at Ashland Senior Center or come teach classes. So to that end, we have Ashland Climate Collaborative came and did some sessions to help people connect to energy rebates and credits and things like that. Bristol Hospice and Maple Ridge Senior Living are new event sponsors with in-kind donations to allow us to have community events at no cost to our budget. Providence Health Services and hospice departments and Rogue Community Health give presentations on medical issues. The Valley Duo is a wonderful musical act. If you see them elsewhere in the community, I highly recommend going to watch them play. And Visiting Angels is another sponsor, assisted caregiver agency that will help support some of our events and maybe host some fun new classes, primarily like arts and crafts classes. We don't have a lot of those. And then some fun photos. So we just wanted to show some of the breadth of activities we have. These are the first two, the Walkabouts group. They meet throughout the year, led by the volunteer Rosalie Rybka in the front, who takes them on, they rotate among different parks in our system, which is kind of fun. It's for socialization, but also walking exercise. And then the Japanese garden walk, I just love that photo, was a special event that we timed so people could see the changing foliage. There's the Rogue Valley Music Duo. And then this is what some of our other activities are like. The line dancers are having fun for St. Patrick's Day, I think, and the driver safety class, which meets quarterly. That's just to show you how we will move that space around to host different kinds of programs. That's also where we have our yoga class and our technology presentations and our music presentations. And then this is the dining room, the other room. So at the bottom, you can see lunchtime, Taco Tuesday. You can see we have an intergenerational space. The woman from Food and Friends who runs the meal program is 21 years old. So there's a lot of fun intergenerational exchange. We have a word of the week on the whiteboard between the bookcases that you can't see, but we're currently featuring Gen Z slang. And then above, you can see how we've moved that classroom around, the dining room around to facilitate our monthly art class, which is quite popular. And then finally, these are pictures of our sponsors at some of our events. So I apologize if I've been remiss in not sending you invitations to all of those, but they are able to provide primarily the food so that we could host those events, and then they send some of their staff to help, and we have wonderful volunteers. You can see in the top right there, Patty and Melvin are two of our volunteers, and they're staffing our information table there. I did want to talk a little bit, just real quick, about the activities we do have. So for fitness, we have three levels of line dancing. We have 3 levels of Tai Chi. We have 2 gentle yoga sessions and a chair yoga session. We have a strength and balance class, which is like small group personal training, a standing steady class, which is fall prevention, and now 2 walking groups. The Walkabouts group, which has more for socialization, and a new cardio agility walking group. For the social activities, we have game groups that meet weekly, cribbage, go, mahjong, and spades. We have a discussion group. We have a weekly movie, a monthly art class, holiday events, cultural and educational presentations, and special programs like one offered by the chair of our advisory committee, Deborah Johnson, called Engagement, about fostering social connection later in life. The partners that we host on site to provide services directly to Ashland residents are Food and Friends with the meal program, SHIBA, which is Senior Health Insurance Benefits Assistance. They are through the Community Volunteer Network, and they help people navigate changes to their Medicare. We're currently hosting them twice a week right now because it's open enrollment season. The Oregon Older Adult Behavioral Health Initiative, their staff person is on site to meet one-on-one with people with more complex behavioral issues. The driver safety class from AARP and the Ashland Community Food Bank has a satellite pantry there, and Jackson County Library Services teaches every 2 months technology basics classes. We have other volunteers that offer help with advanced directives and technology, smartphones and laptops. We still are giving out bus passes and Valley Lift passes and maintaining our monthly newsletter. We do outreach as well. Most recently, Cheryl and I were at the AARP Vital Aging Conference last Saturday, where we had an information table. We were also at the Housing and Human Services Community Resource Fair, the Ollie Open House, really anywhere there's an opportunity to let people know about what we offer through Ashland Senior Services. And I serve on several boards and committees to remain connected to the larger landscape of older adults in our area. That includes the Senior Advisory Council of the Rogue Valley Council of Governments, the Ashland Community Food Bank Board, the Rogue Valley Broadband Access Team, the Rogue Valley Transportation District State Transportation Improvement Fund Advisory Committee, and the Rogue Senior Steering Committee. So that's a group of volunteers trying to get a senior center going in Talent and Phoenix. And last but not least, on Monday, the 24th, which is like a week and a half from now, the Firefighters Union from Ashland Firefighting Department will be once again hosting their annual Thanksgiving pie and seasonal beverages at 2 o'clock at Ashland Senior Center, and I invite you all to attend. I'll send an email to invite you and council members. It's a wonderful opportunity to meet with some of the older adults in our community, if you so choose, and there's pie in it for you too. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Just wanted to clarify, can you go back to your graph?
Yes. There we go.
I'm a math nerd, so I always get confused when an axis isn't labeled. We are, when we're talking numbers there, those are individual services, correct?
They are not
people
unique
served.
individuals.
Okay.
They're unique contacts within a day, but they may be multiple users, repeat users. So we're
Gotcha.
not serving all 21,000 people of the city of Ashland.
There you go. Excellent. I just wanted to clarify.
And we
that.
do
Thank you.
kind of have a core group of primary users, but we'll often have people drop in who are newly retired to the area or who are seeking information for a neighbor or a parent and just don't really know where to start.
Great. Do we track individual users as well?
We don't. We have a database that we maintain. If people sign up for a newsletter or participate in one of our activities, that we get information for them. We primarily want their contact information and an emergency contact. So I could pull that for a list of individual users. It's not necessarily capturing every individual user, though. We don't track directly the people, for example, who come to the lunch program, because they're not directly served by us, even though they often, you know, they're shared patrons along with Food and Friends.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair. I just want to acknowledge Natalie. She kind of rolled through all these extracurricular things that she does, and I think it's really important that we acknowledge those probably aren't in your job description, but those are extra duties that I think you take on for the community, and I think we're all better for it, especially the senior community, for all the outreach and the other groups that you involve with to make sure that we're not an island in Ashland, that we're connected to the Rogue Valley and to all the services that are there. So I think it's important, and we appreciate everything you do.
Thank you. Well, I think part of it is in the job description, but I'm also very much drawn to service. So I would be doing this anyway, and if it has professional benefits, that's just the icing on the cake. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, the fourth quarter fiscal year 2025 financial update. And again, I think Deputy Director Dials is going to kick this off.
Thank you, Chair Lant. I'm going to introduce Brandon Terry, who is our administrative coordinator, and he's going to talk about quarter four, which is April, May, and June of 2025. And take it away, Brandon.
Evening. If I just want to get up my laser pointer here. There we go. Thank you for having me. Q4 of FY25 is April, May, and June of 2025. At the end of FY25, we're now in FY26. And I will start off with the general fund. This is a look at the entire fiscal year. This first one here is personal services. Basically, our budget is split into personal services, payroll, and materials and services, and a little bit of capital outlay. And that's our, mowers, paper products, all that stuff. So the bulk of our money is in payroll. We had 5.7 million for FY25. We ended executing 4.2 million. And then here at this second one, materials, services, and capital outlay, the blue line is materials and services. This orange bit is capital outlay, which is a portion of the park operations budget that's mostly set aside for equipment over $5,000. We were budgeted for 2.5 million in materials and services and 145,000 in capital outlay for a total of 2.7 million. Because we had so much room, so much money left over in our personal services, we're able to use that money to spend in other places that we need. So we ended up spending about 2.8 million in materials and services and 784,000 in capital outlay. We purchased a number of vehicles and equipment that were long scheduled for replacement. This difference, this delta here, is mostly due to FY24. We carried over about $1 million in payroll. Most of that was due to our lower FTE count, which was about 31, if you averaged it it was 31 people out of 37. And so that's like at minimum $700,000, for an entry-level position. And then the group health insurance was probably overestimated, and there was a lot of money left over there. And in the end, we ended FY25 with just under 670,000 giving back to the city out of about 14 million for the biennium. We had about 8.5 million to spend in FY25, and we spent 7.8. So, yeah, about 670,000 left over. So that's general fund. This is revenue, and here is this. They're each labeled up here at the top. This one, the first one is FY24. This is FY25, and so on. And then the different colors are the quarters that money was taken in. So I'll just go through these quickly, and if anybody has a question, please interrupt me. Sometimes I get too focused. Kaye revenue, FY24 was 50,000. We brought in 55,000 this year, which is a little over 8% increase. Facility rentals, 22,000, then 38,000. That's a nearly 70% increase year over year, fiscal year over fiscal year. Golf rental fees, 239,000 compared to 309,000. And that's just about a 30% increase. Adult recreation, 3,200 compared to 11,000. That's a 243% increase. Youth recreation, 1.7 compared to 2.1. That's a 26% increase. Pool programs was a 15.5% decrease year over year. From what I could see, it was just a very strong summer, beginning of the summer, July and August, which is, I think, where most of that difference came in. But then we had a much stronger end of this season this year, or beginning of the season this year. Rink programs, 108 to 117, so an 8% increase. Recreation events, pretty much in line with each other between FY24 and 25, but a 1.7% increase. Nature Center, 5,500 compared to 8,000, 46.79 increase. Senior programs, 59% increase from 42,000 to 67,000. And then these are all the programs I was just discussing. FY24, 588,000. FY25, 708,000 taken in, which is just over a 20% increase. Yep.
What are this is just 24 and 25.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking that, we just had the pandemic, and we were really low then. So do you have numbers like before the pandemic or something to kind of get a sense of the bigger picture?
Yeah, I mean, I can, so I can run through back to 2016. I can do this kind of fast. I think the long of it is, I think we're doing very well compared to previous years. But 2016, 713,000, 2017, these are FYs, 671,000, 18, 664,000, FY 2019, 682,000, FY 20, 584,000, 21, 470,000, 22, 742,000. 21 and 22 were, I think, we had no revenue. So in 21, we had no revenue in rink programs. We had what I have is our highest was in FY21, our golf rental fees were 411,000, which is higher than any of the other years preceding or since 2016. And then 2022, high again at 393,000. But going back to the totals, sorry, FY22, 714,000, FY23, 406,000. That was, we dropped from 393,000 in golf rental fees to 106,000 from 22 to 23. So about a 75% decrease. 24, 588,000, and 25, 708,000. So basically, since the pandemic kind of wrapped up, we're doing really well on the upswing.
So if I can summarize, it sounds to me like we're kind of back to our pre-pandemic levels.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, yeah. If you don't want a rambling answer, then yes, that's exactly. And then this is our capital improvement plan funds, the food and beverage tax. This is a waterfall chart, and I'll try and, it's not intuitive if you're not used to them. So we ended Q3 with 3.3 million in CIP funds. In April, we took in just under 7,000 in tax. We took another 8,000 about in interest on this money. And then our expenses in April brought us back down 234,000 to $3,092,000. So we ended April with $3,092,000. We come into May, we took in 116 in food and beverage tax, another 8,000 in interest, and then our expenses took us back down to 3.15 million. June, 207,000 in food and beverage tax, 19,000 in interest, and then expenses took us back down to 339 million. And that's where we ended FY25 in terms of our food and beverage, or in terms of our capital improvement fund money. And that is all I have, unless there's any questions.
Let's go ahead, Commissioner Gardner.
Could you go back to the last slide, please? So, what exactly, I mean, would this be a typical year for food and bev taxes?
Well, so this is, so I'm sorry, this is only for Q4.
Right. But I mean, is this a normal waterfall chart? Like, does every quarter look similar to this?
No, like the food and beverage tax is higher, like June is very high compared to other months. It was a little bit less in total for the fiscal year. It was, food and beverage tax was a little bit less than projected 2 years ago, what it would be. Not by much, but it was less. But it really just depends. Like, this chart could look, well, so first let me say, it starts at 3 million.
Yeah.
If I had this at 0, everything in here would just be a straight line from the blue, from this to this. So, you know, maybe it might look more dramatic, but it's just to zoom in to kind of show you the ups and downs during that quarter.
So just two quick questions then, if I can. Just, so the interest income, so the city allows us to, not us, but the parks keeps their capital fund in its own account, and that's the interest that we gain off of that $3 million plus every month?
Yeah, and it's
And then-
part of the total, yeah.
And then, do you know, so what were the expenses in April? Like that 234,000?
So the 200,000 of that is the ice rink chiller,
Okay,
which is why it's greater. And then in May, that was basically the rest of the ice rink chiller,
Right.
which came out to be 248,000.
right,
And then the other, what makes up the other amount, what makes up the amounts for the expenses are like architectural and engineering contracts for East Main Park and for the tennis court,
right.
stuff like that.
So, and those expenses, I mean, they can crop up in any month. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
oh,
just-
sure. Yeah, I think we've had months where we didn't have any expense, you know,
Right.
it's-
Okay, thank you.
I think those days are over.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is indoor facility use policy. This will be information only tonight, and it'll come back to us next month for final approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Lant. So the indoor facility use policy, we're bringing it back to you tonight as information only. And this policy does outline the rules and requirements and procedures for using any physical resources managed by Ashland Parks and Recreation. I just wanted to go through what we've done so far. So an old draft of the facility policy was presented in October 1st. It also was posted on the city website for public input, which is part of our policies and procedures process, is to post it on the city website for 15 days, which we did. A new draft is being presented tonight, and we will then repost the policy on the website beginning tomorrow through the 27th of November. And I'll bring back the new draft to the December 3rd commission meeting for action. So the reason we're doing this, sorry about that. Let me fix this slide. The reason we're doing this is we did have changes to the policy when we really started looking at it, and we felt they were substantial enough to bring it back to the commission for a re-review and a posting on the website. We just thought that was the best way, transparent way to do it. So the changes that we're going through tonight are under, sorry, let me find. So the first big one is under, sorry, my slide is just messed up here. Let me just try to fix it really quick. Is under definitions, and I'm not going to show this slide because it's messed up. An eligible renter, it's under definitions, and what we did was we attempted to define what an eligible renter is. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong.
I think the other slide is clear for the eligible renter. It isn't clear for the second half of it, but it is clear for that first part, or at least most of it.
It is not. Sorry, let me just get my, I'm sorry. Just one second. So an eligible renter must fulfill the following requirements: be at least 21 years of age or older. If the eligible renter is part of an organization, is an authorized representative. Number 3, has submitted all proper fees. Number 4, is present for the duration of the rental. Number 5, is personally responsible for adhering to all facility rules and requirements. And number 6, agrees to enforce applicable facility rules and apprise APRD of any concerns or damages. So we're just trying to define someone who could sign the permit, who that person is, can they represent an organization, things like that. We felt that was really important to include. The second changes were under general conditions, kind of just beefing up the language in compliance with applicable laws. And then also under rental guidelines, we didn't have anything when I went back through and looked at it, we didn't have anything on occupancy. And so making sure that the occupancy limits that are set by the City of Ashland Fire Marshal are to ensure the safety of the occupants, and that also that the tables and chairs and things that are in the facility may not be representative of the amount of people that are actually in the building. So, for instance, we have 30 chairs in Pioneer Hall, but that's not representative of the fact that you can hold 80 people in that building. And then we looked at the conditions of denial language and looked at strengthening that a little bit and ensuring that if there is damage to the property that is at the fault of the renter, the eligible renter, that they may be prohibited from future use of APRD facilities, and that they could be, they are responsible for damages. So that was, we beefed up the language there. And tonight, I'm looking for input from the Parks Commission, and we will, based on the input we received tonight, if we can move forward, we can publish it on the website and then bring it back December 3rd for approval.
Commissioners, any questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner Adams.
Actually, not related to the changes that you present tonight, which all make sense to me. I'm not sure I missed it in previous reviews. Can you tell us a little bit about no balloons? I love piñatas too. I could probably fill in a why no piñatas answer, although maybe I'll let you do that one too. Piñatas and balloons.
I get it. So I think a lot of it is the two buildings that I'm speaking of pretty much are Pioneer Hall and the Community Center. And specifically in the Community Center, the ceilings are very tall. And if balloons get stuck on the ceiling, they're going to be very hard to get down. And then tying piñatas to structures inside the facility, could damage the facility. So that's kind of why we put those in there.
I wonder if we could specify if we're specifically worried about balloons flying up to the ceiling, no helium balloons, so that people could still have balloons at their birthday party or baby shower, as long as they don't fly up to the ceiling. I don't know what other commissioners think about that. If there isn't a broader reason why we couldn't have balloons.
Actually, let me jump in. Maybe we should just eliminate balloons, because we have stipulation that if they don't, they're supposed to clean them up. If they don't clean up the balloons, that's extra charge, and we just charge them for it in that way. Because I think what I'm hearing from you, Commissioner Adams, is, gee, balloons, it's parties. And we're not supposed to be the no-fun police, or at least not totally. So I would suggest you just remove balloons and deal with the consequences, and we've covered the consequences. End of story.
Sounds good.
Yay, balloons.
Yay, balloons.
Yes, Commissioner Gardner.
So, since this is for indoor facility use, what about the groups that want to use the facilities and don't want to pay? Is that covered anywhere?
It is not. So my understanding is with groups who don't or cannot pay, we have to do special agreements with them. And so, for instance, we're working with a group right now. I'll just, the Devo group, Ashland Devo, which is a mountain biking group. And we're working on a partnership agreement with them that legal has already looked at that would basically trade volunteer hours for and waive part fees. So any groups that don't have the ability to pay, if they are contributing significantly to Parks and Recreation system, and we would come up with a special agreement for that. But we don't have the ability just to waive fees.
Right. So quick follow-up then. So is there's not really there's nothing that's prohibited from renting this space? Like no groups? Like no one would be?
Well, if you are a commercial group,
Right.
then you are prohibited.
Right.
But this is basically for a nonprofit, and yeah.
So the policy, the draft policy, if you look on number 3, it talks about what is,
Okay.
that things that align with our mission. And so like birthday parties, baby showers, wedding and
Okay.
receptions, family reunions, recreational and educational workshops and classes, local club and organization meetings, and non-commercial uses.
So if you don't fit into one of those 7 categories,
Correct.
then chances are you can't rent the space.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Well, I have a couple. I think that under Roman numeral 4D, I think that could just be eliminated. It's really the same as the definition eligible renter. If it is to stay, then you need to do something, because in one case you say eligible renter, in another it's eligible user, and I believe they're the same thing, but it's really redundant, so the easiest thing to do would just be to remove D.
Okay.
Under 4 general conditions.
Yes. It isn't that
I don't see a problem with
yeah,
that.
it isn't that it's wrong,
Adding
it's
that.
just that it's redundant, and it's confusing because by adding it, we're using 2 different terms for the same thing. Moving on. Under rental guidelines, right below there, standard rentals requests must be submitted at least 10 business days in advance. Well, it says somewhere else that you have to have insurance 10 days in advance. So how do you get your insurance if 10 days before the event you submit your application, but you don't have any time to get insurance? So I'm not sure how that's supposed to work.
Oh, yeah, under general conditions of use, under insurance, it does say evidence of coverage must be provided at least 10 days prior to the first date of the reservation. I mean, I guess how we would work that through staff would be like if somebody's requesting a date 10 days away, they get us their insurance as soon as possible. I mean,
Well, don't we need to say that then? Because that's not what it says is you have to have it 10 days beforehand. It doesn't say there's exceptions. I just assume staff work that out with,
Yeah.
with legal.
sure.
And then I had just two things. One is under rental guidelines, the very last, I guess it's that section. And a signed waiver of responsibility is required before a rental permit can be finalized by staff. That isn't defined.
That's actually in the on the permit rental agreement. Before we actually approve the permit, they have to sign a waiver that's actually on their permit.
But if it's going to be in here, you should know what it's, if you reference it, you should define it, it seems to me. So it just should be in the definitions.
Oh, the signed waiver. Yeah.
And then finally, on the very last sentence of the, it says, if an activity or event causes or imminently threatens to cause damage or destruction of property, the renter is responsible for all damages and will be prohibited from future. And I really strongly feel that may be prohibited from future, because you can imagine someone damaging the property without any malice, and they pay for it. And the way this is written, they would never be able to rent again. And that's just not, in my mind, okay. So it just should say may rather than will. I think I can't ask to change. You guys got to nod your heads or shake your heads no. Yeah. Yes, Commissioner Adams.
I think the only thing that I might hold any issue with is having gone through so that I could figure out how much insurance cost, the process of getting insurance for a made-up baby shower. It can be done in as little as 15 minutes. I clicked all the way through except for submit your credit card. So I think theoretically, if I wanted an event in 10 days and Rachel called me and said, you need to have insurance, I could say, I'm going to do it while you're on the phone with me. I've got insurance. And so I don't necessarily have any issue with both of those things being 10 days because it's not a multi-day process to get insurance. But everything else you said makes sense to me.
And I would leave that one to let staff work that out. If you think there is an issue or a better way of doing it, fine. If not, then we leave it the way it is.
Okay.
Okay, do you have sufficient feedback?
I have sufficient feedback, and we'll get these going, and we'll get it posted on the website to bring back in December.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, the last business item is East Main Street Community Park Phase 2, and we're looking for, this is an action item.
Correct. So recently, within the last month, staff identified a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant through the state of Oregon to apply for Phase 2 of East Main Park. Because of the quick turnaround, we had to kind of put the wheels in motion, and we received approval on a resolution to allow for us to apply for the grant through the city council, and that happened last week on November 4th. The Phase 2 of East Main Park would include, and feel free to add if I forget, it would include a playground, it would include a community garden, it would include a sports court, and fitness court. So those four things: sports
What was the last?
and fitness courts, sports and fitness court, community garden, playground.
I think you're putting together the sports court and the exercise court. Those are two different things.
Those are two different
That makes the
things.
four.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
So those are the things that would be in the grant. I guess the two questions, see, the grant itself, Phase 2 of East Main Park, we're estimating at a little over $1.4 million. The grant is a 50-50 match, so we would be required to come up with the $713-ish thousand. So two questions tonight is the Parks Commission supportive of staff applying for the grant? And two, if the grant application is successful, would the Parks Commission be supportive of the 50% match funds required for the grant? And I will say that basically this would happen in about 2 years' time, which means we would be using, at this point, unappropriated food and beverage funds and SDCs. That's my understanding. So I will turn it back over to the Parks Commission.
A couple of clarifying. Okay, you've got, that's the point. And I think really, you said there was 2 action points, and I don't think we really have to, the first action point, go back one, if we're supportive, I think we don't really, we're gonna, if we support matching funds, then we have shown our support, and that's really all we need to do. And it looks like in the next slide, that's kind of what you're saying anyway. But we're not going to worry about saying we're supportive. We'll put our money where our mouth is if we want to support this. Any questions?
Can you tell me in a little more detail what you're thinking of in relation to what the sport and fitness courts would be? And I'll clarify my question just so that you can answer in relation to that. I guess my concern is I don't want to see us write a grant that commits us to a certain type of programming in a park that will then tie our hands in relation to the use of those funds if that particular use is not approved longitudinally.
So the sport court has not been defined at this point. So it's being defined as a sport court and a fitness court. That's my understanding. So
what's your, I don't understand your question.
Well, I'm just concerned that, and so to be clear, I'm in favor of moving forward with trying to figure out how to complete that project. I just don't want to see us get tucked into a corner where we've written a grant that commits us to a certain kind of programming, and I'll just be clear, so there's no mystery. I'm concerned that some of the programming considered for that particular facility is pickleball, and I don't believe there's been any sound study done. I don't believe there's been any consideration as to what sort of an impact that noise would have on that neighborhood, and I don't want us to commit to a blanket 30,000-foot grant proposal with 50% committed, and then we can't get that funding if we don't build this thing, which is written in as a certain type of a facility that we can't approve because it would be in violation of Ashland Municipal Noise Code and or cause significant harm to that neighborhood.
Let me take a stab at that. The grant, as I read it, does not say pickleball yes or pickleball no.
It doesn't.
But in the master plan that was approved by the commission, there was a sports court, but it wasn't really defined what that was. Now, this is a good thing, in my opinion, because we're going we're asking for the grant, but there is flexibility, because oftentimes with these grants, you got to do just what they said, and that's what happened with us, is we had a grant that built us a park that wasn't really a park, because we got a grant that didn't have a playground in it. And so the fact that all we're doing is, as I understand the grant, is we're saying sports court, and we're not defining what that is. So that can come later. This grant needs to get in a week. We don't have, at the end of the week, actually. And so we don't have time to do the studies or do any of this beforehand, but there is time to do that before we have to make a final decision. So I hear what you're saying, but I think all those things can be done if the commission decides they want to do that.
Yeah, I will just add that we do have we wouldn't find out if we got the grant or not until like next March. And then we wouldn't, if we were approved for that grant, we wouldn't even get a notice to proceed until the end of next year. So we have a lot of time for planning if we do get the grant, as far as like whether it's a sports court or a pickleball court or a basketball court or that sort of thing.
I'm actually writing that grant because Rocky's out, so I'm really familiar with the verbiage in it, and there is nothing specifying pickleball, there's nothing specifying anything except sports court and fitness court, so it's pretty vague.
If I may just comment, I guess what's a big challenge for me is being asked to vote on such a large commitment without any details at all whatsoever. I haven't seen the grant. I don't know what's in it. I don't know what the language is. I don't know what we're committing to. I mean, you're asking us to commit $750,000 of taxpayer money to something that I haven't seen. And that concerns me a little bit. And maybe it's vague enough that it allows latitude or future discretion with regards to how it's applied, but I don't have that information provided to me.
I would also say that in the CIP, right now, we have 2 projects that we've committed to. We've committed to East Main Park Phase 1 with a grant, and we've committed to Hunter Park Tennis Courts with a grant. I think moving forward, we'll have opportunities if we do get the grant for East Main Phase 2 to come back to the commission and discuss where that fits into the priority of the CIP too. So there's going to be those opportunities.
And I just want to point out that actually, the only thing that's new in here is the exercise portion. Everything else is in the master plan, in the drawings, in the construction drawings. It's all been available. It's all been out there for the public for years. So this was all part of what we approved. Commission has approved everything that's in this grant except I don't know what you call it, but the exercise portion of it. Which I'm not, unless it helps us get the grant, I'm not all that enthusiastic about. Commissioner Gardner.
I'll defer to Commissioner Adams I'm ready to make a motion, actually.
No, I was essentially going to say what you said as well. And I think I generally, though I like those little exercise facilities when I'm seeing them places, they've got that little pavilion in Hawthorne Park, not far from the clinic where I work. This is, as I believe you've pointed out before, Commissioner Lant, it is one packed little park. There's not a whole lot of dead space, so to speak. And so I don't, and I think you make a really good point about we've seen the drawings. I think we looked at them my very first meeting as a commissioner 2.5 years ago. And there is a not designated sports court, but there is a sports court right there on the plans. And same way there's a community garden right there on the plans. And of course, we haven't gone through to define exactly how many beds are going to be in the community garden or what striping we're going to have on the sports court. But it's there in the plans. And so this opportunity to come up with some grant money to make Phase 2, in my mind, the ideal would be that it's happening right on the tails of Phase 1, so that we build a park instead of 2/3 of a park. It's a huge opportunity. And so I'll stop talking there and give Commissioner Gardner a chance to make a motion.
Before I recognize Commissioner Gardner, I have a question for staff. Does this exercise component, is that something that the grant is looking for?
I don't believe so.
No.
So we could
It
submit
was
the grant
actually-
without that piece or with it, and it wouldn't have an effect on getting the grant?
Yeah, and I believe that the fitness portion of it was related to a smaller grant that Director Houston was applying for as well, like a smaller matching grant for the fitness portion.
Would you, so in addition to this grant, there's another grant that's being applied
It's a
for?
smaller grant that would be put into this grant as far as more matching funds. That's my understanding.
So then is this fitness component, is it in this grant application that's going in Friday?
I believe it is. Yeah.
It's a fitness court and a sports court.
Yeah, understood. Well, they're not going to, they're not on top of each other, they're next to each other.
It'd be next to each other.
Yeah. And I'm just saying that the fitness portion was not on the master plan. That's what I'm saying. Everything else is. So I'm interested in what other commissioners, how they're thinking on this. Commissioner Adams.
I guess I have a question about this. You know, my biggest concern is at this point with less and less hope, look for a backhoe every time I drive by that lot. I want to see stuff happen. And so my biggest concern is if we add a not a sports card, excuse me, a fitness court as part of this that doesn't appear in our current plans, does that, in order to sort of get a pittance that might pay for a portion of said fitness court, does that move us backwards in any way from a planning perspective? Do we have to resubmit documents? Is there any way that it would slow it down?
I don't
And then
believe
I
so.
guess to me, the numbers matter, because if we add $100,000 to the budget and we get 50,000 of that in grant money, then to me, it's a net loss, again, in a park that's not that big and is already packed pretty full. Do you guys know anything about that? Like, is the additional grant, does it only pay for a small portion of that?
I don't have details on the smaller grant.
So to me, the only reason to add the sports court would be that if we get some extra money that's going to pay for that the fitness court, would be if we get money enough to pay for the fitness court plus a slide on the playground.
Right.
If we can do that, I'm all in.
Okay.
If we're going to have to add money to the grant money in order to add something else to the plan, I would be not in favor of that.
Any other comments from commissioners? Commissioner Gardner.
Well, before I make a motion, I just make a comment that I think you might be reading too much into the parameters of the grant. I mean, I've been involved with certain grant applications, and they're not purposely vague, but a lot of times, like, I think I read somewhere where the fitness court might be a series of trails through the facility. And I think we're getting hung up on the minor details. I mean, the idea is that we don't have $1.5 million to do phase two, but we probably have a much better chance of finding $750,000 to do phase two. And I think approving this is critical to moving forward. And then if there's other smaller grants out there that might feed their way into making this happen, I mean, you might be able to create a fitness court with a smaller grant, and that money that you save by not doing it off this grant, you use it to improve all the pieces that you have. And I think still meeting the requirements of this grant, although I'm not like Nancy, I haven't looked at it and put all the information in there, but I'm pretty familiar with how that works. So I think we might just be taking too deep a dive into that. I mean, the idea is to trying to parlay whatever money we can come up with to get phase two happening as soon as we can.
Thank you. I'm just looking over the actual grant here, which I've got a draft of it. And as I look at it, it doesn't say anything about fitness in the funding. So
there you go.
So all that's in there is community garden, playground, sports court, and preliminary design, construction, engineering. Is that correct?
You may be looking at something different than what I see. Rocky only shared so much information with me, but
This is what you sent me.
recently, it may be in a different part, maybe not under funding. It could be under project definition or. Sorry,
It could be
I'm-
an older version too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you were sent an older version.
Okay, well,
I guess I'm just questioning why it, at this point, we don't know if we're getting the grant at this point, and showing support in other ways, like with other matches and other funding, I think is really important. I think that's why Director Houston did that with the fitness court piece. Like, he saw an opportunity, and at this point, we don't know if we're even going to get the grant. It's just a shot.
yes, go ahead.
Can I
Commissioner
make a
Adams.
motion?
Would you please?
I move to approve matching funds of up to $731,250 for Phase 2 of East Main Street Community Park if there's a successful LWCF grant application. Funds would be dispersed out of the Capital Improvement Project Fund.
Do you have a second? Okay,
I'll second.
moved and seconded. Commissioner Adams, would you like to speak to your motion?
I would. So setting aside any conversation about a fitness court, which this motion actually has nothing to do with, or at least it's not in the phrasing of it. I think this is a wonderful opportunity. Like I said, I can't wait to see a park there on East Main. I think it's going to be a jewel to the east side of town, which is also an area that we as a community have targeted for growth of our city, which I think our city very much needs, including creation of some affordable housing. I can't wait to see kids playing on the playground that I agree with Commissioner Lant should be built as soon as possible, because a playground makes a park. So I think it's wonderful that we found this grant. I appreciate the work of staff in applying for it, and I am going to keep my fingers crossed from now until I found out that we got the money.
Commissioner Gardner, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Vice Chair Lant. I agree with everything Commissioner Adams said, and I just think it's important that, a couple months ago, we didn't know how we were going to do Phase 2. Now we have an opportunity to move forward. Once again, like Deputy Director Dial said, we don't know we're going to get the grant, but this is our best path forward right now. So I think we should show, hopefully, unanimous support moving forward to try to secure some funds so that we can complete this part within the next couple of years.
Would you like to speak to the motion, Commissioner Weiner?
What I'd like to say about the motion is I actually wholeheartedly support anything we can do to move the completion of East Main Park Phases 1 and 2 forward. What I'm very uncomfortable with is being asked to vote on a motion to approve a grant of which I have seen zero details. Nonetheless, based on the assurances from staff that the way the grant is written, that it doesn't lock us into things that the commission haven't discussed, specific applications or build-outs, I am going to vote in favor of it, and I'm going to be looking forward to having future discussions to sort out exactly how and what we build out to make an amazing park that really meets and supports that community and our community at large.
Thank you. I'm obviously wholeheartedly support this motion. I would just ask staff to look at the language they use for the grant and maybe give us a little wiggle room on the fitness part of it, so that it's more of a may than will kind of approach on that. And so with that, unless there's some other comment, I'm going to call for the roll call vote.
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Lund,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams.
Yes.
All yes, motion passes.
Okay. Next is, do we have any liaison reports? Well, we're going to wind it down here. Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Adams.
Trails Advisory Committee meets this next Wednesday at
4:15.
4:15 p.m. at the Lithia Cabin. And the one thing I'd say as far as the Trails Advisory Committee, I assume we're all really good at reading the packet, but make sure that we, all of us commissioners, read the packet. There's some, it's juicy in there, the minutes. Thank you.
Okay, well, there are two other meetings to announce. There will be a Park Commission special meeting on December 3rd, which is our normal study session time, but we're going to have a special meeting on that date instead. And there'll be a strategic goals meeting on December 10th. And both those meetings are in the council chambers at 6 o'clock. And no other business, so I'm adjourning the meeting.